Hi everyone, I'm going to be with you just shortly. I got on a moment early. I'm just checking my camera and everything here. I'm waiting for people to pop on. It'll have a number right. So we're just waiting for a few more people to pop on. Hi everyone, we're just getting all set up, just bear with us.
Linda from Arizona.
Oh, you're seeing messages?
Yes, it's popping up now. Amy's watching.
Hi everyone. I am doing the 101 Janome basics. We're not quite at 3 o'clock yet, so just bear with us for a minute as we're getting everything checked and getting everything lined up. Hi Amy, hi Carol. So I have lots of people joining in. If you see me looking down, I'm looking at notes and questions on my phone. So I am Alba. I am one of the Janome educators, and I'm so excited today. I don't have to run back and forth between my camera. One of my coworkers, Sam, has so graciously agreed to help us. Don't worry, everyone. We're socially distancing. We're being safe. But today we're going to be going over the basics of the machines. I have quite a few machines here that I'm going to go over a little bit of information on them. I know a lot of people are buying new machines. So I did want to go over some of the verbiage that you're seeing online, some of the explanations, and I'm going to take you through some of the different categories of machines that we have. So Sam, as people are asking questions, just let me know and I'll look down at the questions. But I see Kim is asking, I hope you're going to go over the needle threader. I got something even better for you, Kim. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock on the Janome sewing machine page, the main page, I'm trying to think, Amy is going to be do a live session at 3 o'clock. She is covering the needle threader and she is covering bobbin winding. I know a lot of people have had some questions about that, so Amy is going to go through that in detail. I will give you a little bit of an explanation of the different types of needle threaders that are across our line. So we'll be doing that. Perfect. I'm so glad that you're excited about that needle threader live tomorrow. Needle threader and winding a bobbin with Amy. She's got a lot of information and a lot of knowledge, and I'm sure you'll enjoy that. And that's at 3 p.m. on the Janome sewing machine page. So I am going to get started, and we're going to be looking at different machines. So I'm going to start all the way over here. I'm not going to say right or left because with the camera switching it around, it'll be off from what you're looking at. But I'm going to start with the green machine. So on this one over here, you're going to notice knobs. Whenever you're selecting your stitches by turning a knob, this is a mechanical machine. And with a mechanical machine, they, for the most part, load the bobbin in the front of the machine. There are a few of the mechanical machines that do have a top drop-in bobbin. So with the mechanical machine, what you see is what you get, and I'm going to come to the front now. So I'm moving around, I'm letting Sam know so he knows what I'm doing. One of the things to make note with a mechanical machine is just what I said. What you see is what you get. With a mechanical machine, because it doesn't have any electronic components, you are not able to get as many of the fancier decorative stitches. One of the stitches that you really can't accomplish well here is a blanket stitch or a buttonhole stitch. So if you're really wanting to expand and go into that area of quilting, you may not necessarily want to go with that mechanical machine. The other thing to make note of too is the buttonhole capability on here. A little bit less than when you go up in the line. Most of these machines have a 4-step buttonhole, and that's indicated right here on the dial. Meaning I need to draw my start point and my stop point of my bobbin, and I need to start and stop my machine and change the dial. It will do one side of the buttonhole. Stop, I need to switch my dial to do the bottom, step 2. Then it will go into step 3 to do the opposite side. I need to stop that machine at the correct point and go to the top section. So for a lot of people, this is what they're used to. It's their comfort zone, and know that that machine is there for you. But I just wanted to explain a little bit about that mechanical machine. Now, when we go one level up, and I'm going to move over a little bit and go to this one, the electronic machine. And a lot of people really have asked a lot of questions about what is the difference between electronic and computerized, and I'm going to explain. On an electronic machine, I'm going to compare it to a phone. It is like a push button phone. Rather than turning a dial, I am pushing buttons. Now, Sam, if you could focus in a little bit on that screen. I'm getting really spoiled having help with the camera. So on the screen, what I love about when you have a rectangular shaped screen on a machine is I am seeing my stitch number. Here where we have the little zigzag symbol is my stitch width. It's going from very narrow to very wide. And then my stitch length. If you see one of these machines and it has a square screen rather than an elongated rectangle, there you have all 3 pieces of information, but you're seeing one at a time. So with this, we're paying attention to the cursor lines underneath. My arrows are going to move those cursors. So if I wanted to do, let's say, stitch 23, rather than having both of these and moving my fingers 23 times, I'm going to highlight just that first number, and I'm going to go to 20, and then move from there. When both numbers are highlighted, I'm going one at a time. And whenever you see a Janome machine with that rectangular screen and those arrow dials, it will operate the same way. One thing I love about Janome, and it makes it easy being an educator, is Janome keeps things very consistent. So even if you don't have that 3160, the Magnolia machine will give you a lot of the same function. The 4120 machine will give you a lot of the same functions. So you're going to notice a lot of similarities between a lot of the different machines. Now on stitch number 21, looks like a little checkered there. Love that stitch. It is set at a 7mm width. This particular machine does a maximum of 7mm, whereas the mechanical, for the most part, they do a 5mm stitch. So that maximum stitch width goes from a little narrower to wider and even wider as we get to some of the more upper end machine. But let's say I want to do that and I want to go to a width of 6.0. I could get very detailed with my width and with my length. Whereas on a mechanical machine, I have fewer adjustments, fewer needle positions that I can maneuver through. So you're always going to jump from one to another. And if you're shopping for a machine, I have said this and answered many people online, don't think about what your sewing skills are now. Think about where you want to be in 5 years. What do you want to learn? What do you want to accomplish with your sewing? And make sure your machine has those features. There's nothing worse than buying a new machine and within 6 months to a year going, oh, I wish I had that feature, or I need to now get another machine. So always think ahead of where you want to be in the future. Always grow into a machine rather than outgrowing it. So with this one, I love my speed control. So every time you see a slide dialer with the double and triple arrows, this is like cruise control on the car. This is setting the maximum speed for me. And this is really nice because when I put my foot on that foot pedal or I touch stop start, I tend to go faster than I should. So this allows me to slow down and change the habit of the machine versus me changing my own sewing habits. So really nice to have that feature, which I cannot get on a mechanical machine. So just explaining some of those differences. Now some of the other buttons, I'm not going to go over all of them on here because you're going to notice the buttons repeat as I go on to different machines. And you're going to see a lot of similarities. So the scissor button is one that I'll tell you, Janome has just spoiled me rotten. I just really find it hard to sew on a machine without that scissor button. How about you, Sam?
Yep.
Yep. So with the scissor button, when I touched that scissor button, it raised my needle, it cut my needle thread, and cut my bobbin thread so that it loosens and allows me to free up that work. Now, are there any pressing questions, Sam?
No.
Okay. So one thing I get asked about is sewing on heavy material. So this I have folded and bundled, and this is 8 layers of denim. Now you probably think I wasn't going to show this until I got to the bigger machine, the 6700 that we have coming up. But no matter what machine now I have to go to an extra high lift, it was tough for me to get it even underneath there. And I'm just finding my foot pedal here. But look at how easily I am going through those layers. Now I don't have that scissor button on this machine, so I had to leave my scissor close at hand. Now I'm going to move really close, Sam, so let me know when I'm in a good spot. Can they see that? Just tell me where to move.
You can see it now.
Now look at how beautiful that stitch is. Now most people would not turn it over and show you the back. The back is just as beautiful as the front. I did nothing. I touched no tension, no presser foot pressure, left it as it was. Can they see that thickness? Look at how thick. So even on our basic machines, they handle thick fabrics beautifully. Now I'm going to put that same piece of fabric underneath the 3160. And I use that stop start button even on a decorative stitch. I'm going to touch that scissor button. I'm going to raise that. And I'm going to move in close, not to drive Sam crazy. Good?
Hold on. Yeah.
And even the back. Even with a decorative stitch, going over all those layers. Isn't that beautiful? I just love that reliability on the Janome machines. So are there any questions between the mechanical and the electronic model? I told everyone to come prepared with questions.
Somebody asked you how many layers that you sewed through.
So this was 8 layers of a heavy denim. I have gone to about 10. When you're going through thicker layers, I did not change my needle. This is a blue tip, an 11. I would normally switch to a jeans needle or heavier needle. So even without switching that needle, I was able to do it. But if I am making a project, I would use the appropriate needle, the appropriate thread, and slow down. I did not go pedal to the metal. I did not go at super fast speed. Just slowing that down will enable you to go over the thicker layers. Now I know a lot of you are making masks and doing pleats. So when you're doing a double layer of fabric and you're pleating, what you want to do, and I am just going to stop that noise. And I always tell people silence your phones, and I did not pay attention to my own rule. So Sam, are you seeing what's in my hand?
You try and zoom in.
Okay. Let me know if I need to move.
No, you got it.
Okay. So with those masks and with that pleating, notice how with the pleating, one pleat stops and another one starts. If I start doing this is going to be, your fabric moves as you're sewing over it. So this is one tip that I'm going to give you because I've noticed a lot of people ask questions. They're having trouble sewing over those pleats. So here, because I've lined those pleats up one after another, I'm going to sew through those, and I'm going to come to the machine and show you how I sew through those very easily. So I always do the pleats where they're facing me, and I'm going to hit start, and let me just go to a straight stitch. See how easily I was able to switch that, and see how easily it went right over it. And I was able to get that without even skipping a stitch. So it really is the way you're pleating your fabric and the way you're laying it out, and you want to keep that level and flat. And if you are having a little bit of trouble going over bulk, I'm going to share something with you. So here's that insider tip. As you're approaching a hump, like I am right here, that piece of fabric, as I'm approaching that, let me get my fingers out of the way. I am going to press in on that black button. So here's that A foot, and this is the black button. This is a leveling button. By pressing that as I'm sewing, it keeps the foot still, allowing you to go over bulk, like the hem in a jean, in a pair of pants, where you have a seam and you're folding it over to do a hem. And that will also help you with going over bulkier fabrics. So that is the electronic machine. Completely mechanical, electronic. Now, when we go to a computerized machine, the difference between electronic and computerized, I am able to combine different decorative stitches, and I'm able to save into the machine. Basically, that big component that makes it computerized is being able to save into a memory folder or store into the machine. And that is one of the big things, and I'm really oversimplifying that explanation, but That's just the way I am. I tend to keep things very simple, and I try to keep it very clear. So now we're going to start going into the computerized model. So here we're at a teen to high teen weight. These are very portable, very travel friendly. I'm going to start going into, and I'm actually going to move a machine or two, into the Skyline model. So the Skyline series has several in the series, and what I love about this machine line, the Skyline series, is its size. It's not exactly full size, and it's not exactly a travel machine. It's a great intermediate machine. Some of you have used a machine like the 3160, 4120, this particular size, and you've outgrown it. You want more features, you want more lighting, more stitches. Maybe you want a built-in walking foot. You want to be able to use your knee lift and not carry a machine that's 30, 40 pounds to you to class. This is what you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for your first machine and you want something a little bit bigger, but you're not quite at the point of the full size 11-inch throat or 13-inch throat. This is a great line of machines to look at. It's that nice in between. It offers you everything of our full line machine in a compact. Maybe you have our Memory Craft 15,000 and you're looking for a smaller version to bring to classes. This is virtually giving you everything that you've fallen in love and used to in a smaller version. So now I'm going to come a bit closer to the Skyline series. I'm moving everything around on Sam, making it harder for him. So now you're going to notice a lot of similarities. You're going to notice my speed control, my scissor, my buttons have stayed the same with a couple of new additions. So this button here, I'm going to use my scissor and that foot lifts up. Normally on the other machines I've reached for the lifter, and I have the lifter on this machine, but I have a push button to raise and lower my machine. Now I'm going to let you in on an insider tip. Whenever you see this icon on a machine, the auto lifter, know that you're going to have a feature called pivot. And what that pivot feature does is when I start sewing and I come to a stop, my needle is down, my foot is up, so I'm able to pivot and turn my fabric. Whenever you see auto lift, it's married to, never to be divorced, to that pivot feature. So that's really nice knowing that when you see that machine with that feature, knowing you're also going to have that pivot feature. I do not have this going to the previous two models we're looking at. So this is part of the jump in features, the more to the machine than we previously had. So I like the fact that my screens are very user-friendly. The one thing I tell people as you're getting a machine, really get familiar with what these icons are. And as we move to the other machines, you're going to notice, look at that. The icons stay the same, and they do. I love that consistency. So with most of the machines, as you get to the computerized version, you're going to see that you can directly select right on the screen. So my first icon is a straight stitch and a buttonhole. So my utility stitches, and that corresponds with that first tab on the machine. Now my next one, I'm going to highlight it. Ooh, I
There's
didn't
a
mean to
glare
do
on the
that.
screen.
Hmm?
There's a glare on that screen. It's coming from the light.
Do you want me to move forward a little
See
bit?
if you can.
Is that
Yeah,
better?
that's a little bit better.
Oh, good.
Because it's getting glare on the machine.
Did I say thank you to Sam for doing this for me? I'm so excited to have a camera person. So my next one looks like a fleur-de-lis or decorative stitch. When I touch this, it will open up all of the other categories outside of the first two. So I'm going to go to this. Every category here is the category box that's up on top. Now I'm going to let you in on a little hint. Every machine I've looked at goes applique, heirloom, quilt, satin. They stay in the same order. I got a call from a dealer needing some help, and she was amazed. I was able to tell her, and I told her I didn't have that machine in front of me, but she needed to get to the quilt category and stitch number 2, and she was just so impressed by that. And I'm like, well, I'll let you in on a secret. It's the same on all of the machines. And you're going to notice a lot of similarities. So as you're going to YouTube videos and some of our past live videos, we go over different features. If your machine has that feature, it will probably work very, very similar. Now on the Skylines, all except Skyline 3 is a 9mm machine. With the 9mm machines, I know we have a lot of quilters out there. Just remember that you need to go to the quilt category. On stitch number 2, it says 1/4 inch P. That is the 1/4 inch piecing. Now, I'm going to go to just regular piecing, and we're going to watch that needle. Do I need to flip the fabric up to see it, Sam?
No, I think it's...
Good. So right now, it's in the center position. When I touch stitch number 2, that needle moved, and my needle position is at 8.3.
You have to do it again. You can't see it from the camera.
We're moving the camera a little bit, and it allows you to get that perfect 1/4 inch piecing. But I know a lot of you like to do a scant 1/4 inch. So I still have my needle position adjustments so that I'm able to get scant or generous. So if I need to go scant, I need to go closer to the right. If I want to get more generous with that seam allowance, I would go more to the left. And plus or minus will allow me to do that. So I know that Kimberly usually likes to go to 8.5 with her scant needle setting, and that allows me to do that. I'm also able to very precisely get my stitch length. And I love the fact that the stitch width and length are right on the screen. These are two things that I adjust all the time. So I don't have to go up and adjust. It's right on my screen. So I'm at 1.8, and I'm going to go to 2.4. Very easily, I can change that. And if I did need to adjust anything else, there's an up arrow. That up arrow tells me, but wait, there's more. So when I adjust that and lift it up, I could adjust my presser foot pressure, my tension, my stitch length, and my needle position or width. And if I've been playing and I just don't know what I've done and I just want to get back to normal, DFT refers to default. So when I touch that, it'll bring all of my settings to the factory settings. I touch that up arrow again, and it brings it down. Now here, I don't have my arrows up and down, but what I do have is page forward and page back. And this allows me to select and see my view on the screen, as well as the lid on top of the machine. Now I told you I was going to go over different types of needle threaders. So the mechanical machine I'm going to move out of the way, and I'm going to get my electronic in view. Sorry, Sam, I'm moving around on you too much.
Okay.
So there's some verbiage with, and the reason I moved my mechanical machine down is most of the mechanicals do not have a needle threader. So I wanted to show you the electronic versus the computerized. Now, when you're looking at a description online, and a lot of us now are going online and researching, I always recommend going to your local dealer. They're just a resource that's there for you, and really reach out to them. So some machines will just have a needle threader. And what that means is when I push this down, it does not stay down. I need to hold my finger on there, and is my arm in the way if I do that?
No, they can see it.
Okay. I need to hold this down, and that is just simply known as a needle threader. A one-handed needle threader is this right here. When I pull that down, it stays down, and I do not have to hold that down. Now, my tip, I don't want to go in on Amy's class tomorrow, but I always recommend needle down, needle up. Do I need to do that again?
Let me go and do it again.
So needle down, needle up before I use the needle threader. Do not rely on your eye and your hand to turn the hand wheel. This sets the needle in the perfect spot for using that needle threader. And remember to tune in tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and Amy will go over that in more detail. So now on the Skyline 7, our computerized machine, this is what's known as a superior needle threader. It's got a little claw right here. And when I lower this needle threader, and I'm going to go to the back of the machine, otherwise all you're going to see is my shoulder. I did that to you yesterday. I don't want to do it again. When I lower it, see how it looks like a claw gripping that needle? This is the superior needle threader. I love this needle threader. It's an advanced needle threader, works really beautifully. Again, I'm going to tell you, do needle up, needle down, make sure your foot is lowered, your tension is activated when using a needle threader. Now our Memory Craft 15,000 has the same style of needle threader, but it's an automatic push button, and that's the big difference between that. So now I've told you a little bit about the different types and styles of needle threaders. And now I'm going to compare two computerized machines. How to correct myself. So even on these models here, can I go through those heavy layers? What do you think, Sam?
Sure.
Sure. Now I folded this over again. Now I have 9 layers on here. I'm going to lower the foot. I'm going to go to a straight stitch, and I'm going to slow down that machine. And I didn't put that under there really well, but I still have that great stitching on there. And I did what not to do. I went on top of 2 or 3 layers that were lumpy and just not in a good situation. So now we're going to look at the screen on the 9850.
Okay.
We're moving around a lot. Is that good? Do I need to?
You're okay.
Okay, good. Now you're going to notice a lot of the same icons as that previous machine on the Skyline 7. The machines tend to stay very consistent. My straight and buttonhole are my utility and buttonhole stitches. Then I have my decorative stitches. The letter A is going to be my lettering, same as on that Skyline 7. But now I'm going to go over a button I didn't go over on the Skyline 7. It's there, but I thought I'd move over, and that is sewing applications. Sewing applications is on a lot of our machines. And this will set up the machine for specific functions. So page 1, seaming, overedge, blind hem, rolled hem, zipper, gathering. So it will, and I'm going to show you on the zipper. Do I want to do a lap zipper or concealed zipper? I'm going to do a lapped. It's going to ask me, do you want a lock at the beginning, at the end? Are you basting? Are you sewing on the left side or the right side? Normally, when sewing a zipper, you need to move your needle position, or on some of the older machines, you're getting the foot where you're sliding the foot. Now let's take a look at that needle. When I touch left side, my needle moved all the way to the right to allow me to sew in that position. And when I touch in the other, that needle moves. It does all of the thinking and the setup for me. And when I go to some of the other functions like gathering, am I gathering or am I ease stitching? And it changes the stitch length and the settings. It does not simply tell me what the setting is. It makes the change for me. So here I have a long stitch length. And when I go to ease stitching, my stitch length got shorter because I need a shorter stitch for that. And I love the way Janome does this. So in applique, it gives me my typical blanket stitches, but when I go to zigzag, this is already a satin stitch. I don't need to make those adjustments. So just really nice, really straightforward. And you're going to notice that the screens are very similar from one machine to another. Now the 9850 happens to sew and embroider. This is one of our newer combination machines. And I've noticed that quite a few people have recently gotten this and have shared that they just received their new machines. So I just thought it would be nice to share this model. Now, whenever we have a combination machine, you're going to see an icon with double machines. Everyone seems to think that converting from sewing to embroidery is a long, tedious process. It really is very simple. So I am going to touch that button, and it's telling me that the carriage arm is going to move. So if I had my coffee there, make sure of it. I'm in embroidery. The only one thing that I did is I lowered my feed dogs, and there's a tab on the side of the machine, which is going to be impossible for Sam to get to. And my flowers for designs, my lettering in embroidery. Lettering in embroidery and lettering in sewing is very different. So in embroidery, it's a satin stitch. It has width to it, very dense, beautiful stitching. And on the sewing machine, it looks like you took a hand needle and stitched out that lettering. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of that. Now on both of these machines that are computerized, you're going to notice a folder with an arrow pointing in. And this is the portion that makes these two machines computerized versus electronic. I am able to save into and save combination of stitches, and I am able to do combination of stitches And is it easier here?
I can, yeah, you show one machine instead of two.
Perfect. Now when I could do one stitch, which would be beautiful. But I want to do 2 or 3 different stitches. When I touch my hearts, triple hearts, when I touch that, everything disappears in my field. I am now in stitch combination mode. And I could choose this one, and I could go to different pages. And you would be a bit more careful in what you're choosing, but look, I'm able to do different stitches. This is also how I would go from just the letter J to the word Janome and build sentences and do my lettering function as well. So this allows me to do combination. Any questions coming up since I left my phone back here?
There have been a lot of questions on just tell me you'll answer it later after the video.
I do go back and look, so I'm noticing, can I do stitch combos on the S5? I believe so. I am about 90% certain, but I will double check and get back to you on that. So now I'm going to move to the 6700, which we haven't done a lot of lives on, and I wanted to show this machine. So lots of you have heard about the Janome 6600. That is probably the one model that sold the most number of machines. I have the Elna version of it at home. I love that machine, and a lot of people did. But they wanted more. They wanted a bigger throat space. They wanted more height, more lettering. They wanted to be able to do an electronic screen, but still have that similarity of that other machine. For those of you that don't have the 66, here's how I explain the MemoryCraft 6700. It is just enough old school blended with new technology. Just enough home machine versus an industrial machine. So they grabbed different parts of those different machines and developed what I think is just the absolute perfect blend. Now, my first sewing machine was an industrial machine. The area that I grew up in, I had a sewing factory a block and a half away from me, so my summer jobs were there. And I grew up with that style of a machine. It's what my sister had. My mom, unfortunately, didn't sew a bit. She did all of her crocheting and knitting, which skipped me altogether. So that industrial machine, because of the solid metal bed, gives it just an edge on stitch quality over a machine with an opening and a free arm. So this capability here. Because of that solid bed, it just handles fabric just a hair better. So on this machine, I have our built-in walking foot, our AccuFeed system on this machine. They really thought of the best of all worlds and put it into this. We won the Good Design Award for 2018. Just really nice features. So we're going to start out with that solid metal bed. So when you're working with tote bags and upholstery and heavy fabrics, the reason I like that solid bed, I've been known to do a lot of upholstery work. Boat covers, plane covers, a lot of heavy material, and that allows it. If you were super, super fussy with your tension and you like that old school manual tension, the beehive tension unit, you have it. You have your presser foot dial and section that's all within there. So there's that old school. New school technology, I have 9mm stitch width. I have a screen where I'm able to see my selections. So that's the blend of old and new, but still very, very simple to manipulate. In mode 1, if I want to go to stitch 9, I simply touch the 9 and it changes to that stitch. If I straight stitch, I touch 1 and it brings me very easily. I still have my speed control, my buttons on my machine that I love, including stop start, which if you watched my live on that, it's the only way that I sew. Really, really nice. So with this one, I like having that little bit of old, little bit of new, and I have my speed control. I have a lot of control over this machine. It's not all automatic. For some people, they really do like having that complete control. So now I'm going to go over very heavy, and I am just...
Someone's asking about the extra high lift.
So here I am in lowered lift. For the question on does it have an extra high lift, so far every machine I've gone through has extra high lift. So I lift once, and that is my normal lift, and I'm going to have a hard time getting that fabric. When I lift even higher, my extra high lift on this machine stays up, which I really like. I don't have to manually hold it. On some of our other machines, you have to manually hold that up. So now I'm lowering that, and I am, because I'm going through a lot of fabric there, and I'm only on a size 11 needle or blue tip, I'm going to slow that down like butter. I love the sound of that when it just handles that thickness. And I'm going to cut my thread. Is that good?
Yep.
And even on the back side, beautiful. Handles that thickness. I just love that the Janome machines are able to handle all of this. On this particular model, I like that the thread stand is built into the machine. The thread stands are available for our other machines that we did look at. And some of you may not have asked yet, but I know you're going to ask, what is that beautiful table making everything flush with this machine? So this is the Janome Universal Sewing Table. And the reason that they call it universal is that there are different plates available for just about every machine that we carry, that it will fit this table. Now this table also has an optional drawer and storage area. So when you go onto the Janome website and you look up sewing table, it will bring you to this, and there will also be an area where it will tell you what model needs what plate. So I'm going to show you. So for the 6700, I needed the H plate, and that's what made it fit in there beautifully. So this is just gorgeous for garments, for those big upholstery and home deck items, and those big quilts. So it just makes it really easy to work with the machines. And you could put the smaller ones as well as the larger size machines. The only machine that I would be cautious with dropping into a table is an embroidery model, because our embroidery unit is in the back of the machine and it needs to sit up above a table. And I'm going to open up that arm so you see what I mean. this needs to move freely, that embroidery arm. So in the table, it's not what I would recommend if you're going to embroider a lot. You would need to lift it up off of being in that table. So I'm going to double check for questions.
And tell them there's a place for the knee lift on the table also.
Yes, Sam pointed that out. There is a cutout on the table so that you could also put in your knee lift. Now the knee lift, I'm gonna tell you this is my verbiage, not Janome wording, but what the knee lift is, it is that automatic lifter button in a manual format. When I hit that bar with my knee, it will raise and lower the foot hands-free. So I don't have to take my hands off my fabric, go to the lifter to lift up. The knee lift will do that for me. So I'm seeing some questions. Is there a class for just the M7? There have been lots of videos on the M7. I know Kimberly Imo does most of her classes on the Continental M7. So you may want to take a look at those videos there. And there's been quite a few where we went over different features on the M7, like the HP foot and plate. But also really take a look at if there's something specific that you want to learn, don't get really focused on the machine, because as you see, there's a lot of similarities going through the different machines that even though they're on the 9450, it will also apply to your M7. So there's a lot more similarities than there are differences in the machines. And the M7 has some exclusive features that we did some videos just for that. But especially on the embroidery models, those screens are really similar. So now I'm going to give you, for the embroidery models, on the 30th, on the Janome sewing machine page at 3 o'clock, I will be going over a 101 on the embroidery edit screen. So I'll be going over the different icons specifically for embroidery. So join me back for that. If you don't have an embroidery machine and you're looking to find out what is this all about, come in and join us. And on July 2nd, I am going to be doing a reading pillow class, so just bear with me. I'll go back to the chair, Sam. Poor Sam, I'm hopping around all over. I'll be doing a reading pillow. So this is great if you're a newbie or you want a refresher. You are going to learn binding and putting that on completely by machine. We are going to be making piping, and we're going to be also sewing together strips with a diagonal seam. We are going to be doing an envelope back closure on a pillow, and Sam's laughing at me because I didn't get my pillow form and I have bubble wrap in my pillow. It still looks beautiful. So just a whole lot that's covered in this class. So join me at 11 a.m. July 2nd for that. And tomorrow with Amy at 3 o'clock on the Janome sewing machine page, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. She will spend detailed and go over how to use a needle threader and winding a bobbin and little tips and tricks on doing that. I know a lot of you have had questions on that. I'm going to look again real quick.
Somebody asked about showing the black button again on the A-foot.
Sure.
Which machine you want to do it on?
I'm going to come right over here. So I'm going to show that on the 3160, but no matter what machine you have, it will work the same way. So I've double folded, and actually I'm going to triple fold.
I think she wants to know about how to use the button.
The leveler?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, this is normally used when you hem. When you're going to a seam and you're coming to that bulk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow this down really, really slow so that you could see that. So here I am going over that flat area, and as I am approaching that bulk and it's getting to that foot, I am pressing in that leveling button, and it will allow me to go over that hump of fabric. And I'm going to stop the machine and hit my scissor button. And I did not even skip a stitch. So I did a triple fold like you normally would for a hem, and you'll see going over, I did not even get a skipped stitch. So what that does, when you press it in, it holds firmly. So when I press this in, my foot has no wiggle room, whereas here it has more wiggle room. By pressing it in and holding that foot firmly, it allows it to go over that hump of fabric, allowing you to sew over bulk very easily. So we had our mechanical machine, the one that I pulled off the table, and I'm going to pull it up. Just a little refresher. I'm going to go to the back of the machines. So we have our mechanical, our electronic, and then we get into our computerized models. And a lot of people often say, oh, if you want to go over heavy material and you're doing tote bags, you need that front-loading bobbin and you need a mechanical machine. But as you could see from what we were doing, is that good, Sam?
Yep, I'm raising it up.
Okay. It really doesn't matter on the Janome line. These are machines that are built to do and really take that heavy fabric, and they're just designed for reliability, like our tagline says. I don't see any other questions. Do you, Sam?
Not.
So I am going to leave you today. Remember that there is a live on the Janome sewing machine page at 3 o'clock with Ann Hine, and she is going over decorative stitches and Stitch Composer as part 3 of her series. Bye-bye, everyone.